Welcome to the Dawn Osborne Show, Limitless Life. The big question women like you and I ask is, how do we do that? How do we have a growth mindset? How do we increase our emotional intelligence? How do we do life, business and marketing, and yet still remain balanced in the rhythm of our life and our family? Those are the questions that this podcast will answer. My name is Dawn Osborne, and welcome to my Limitless Life podcast.
Hello everybody, and welcome to another session of Fearless Women. This is going to be such a delight for you. This woman is on a mission. She has been out into Europe. She has been helping women who are in desperate need over in Europe. She's written a book. I won't tell you her age because she is a powerhouse. Honestly, she's like a 20-year-old. I love this woman. I want what she's having, truly. So welcome, Grethe Stanley. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you, Dawn. It's lovely to see you and lovely to be on your program. I feel it's a privilege.
Oh my gosh, the privilege is all mine. You are such an amazing woman. Honestly, I mean, guys, if you're listening or you're watching right now and you don't know what Grethe does, she is a mover and a shaker. She's a pioneer. And I really want you to listen. She's going to share some wisdom at the end. And I really want you to, get your listening skill, get your ears turned on and listen to what she has to say, because she just has such a wealth of wisdom to share with us. And I know her tips will be gold, absolutely gold. But before we go there, Grethe, can you share with us? So you help people, you help women particularly over in Europe. Can you tell me what was your driving force to go over there and go and help them? Can you share that with us?
Yes, I can, Dawn. It's been quite a journey. Actually, my husband is from former Yugoslavia originally, and we went over there for a holiday because he wanted to show me where he and his parents escaped from when he was a young man, because it was under communism at that time. And it was while we were there on a holiday that we began to just feel like there was some work for us to do here. And, you need to know the history of former Yugoslavia. There's been a lot of bloodshed, a lot of wars, and a lot of just a lot of bloodshed. But anyway, I don't want to go into that. But to make a long story short, we decided that we would go and live over there because Andrew really had it on his heart to work with the people over there on reconciliation between the Serbs and the Croats and the Macedonians and the Slovenians. And so, again, to make a long story short, we packed up everything, and in 2004. October 2004, we went over to Croatia, and we began to travel around and to meet different people. And Andrew talked to a lot of leaders, evangelical church leaders and other leaders, about the need to reconcile, because they don't have a future if they don't reconcile and if they don't forgive. But from my point of view, it didn't take me very long to realize that women were very downtrodden in that part of the world. And they were really like second-class citizens, and there was nothing for them. And I already had it on my heart that I would start something for the women over there. Yeah. But over there, you cannot just arrive and start. You have to earn respect, and you have to, especially as a woman. As a woman, I couldn't just start. I had to have the tick, if you like, from the evangelical leaders. I had to have the tick to begin this conference. But anyway, the whole book, the book that I wrote, A Whisper from Heaven, is a decade of what the women have done in 10 years once they discovered their value.
Wow. So
in 2006, my husband and I, we organized a reconciliation gathering between men and women. Right. And we saw absolute miracles. We saw, people that would have had a gun pointed at each other. We saw them actually reconciling and deciding that to have a better future, they needed to preach a message of reconciliation, not of hatred.
Right.
And it was by this stage, it was very obvious that God had led us to a particular generation, 35 to 45-year-olds. Because that's the generation that's going to start the change. And then every generation after that is going to get better and better and better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're changing a culture, aren't you? Your mission is to change the culture and empower. It sounds like you're empowering the women to step into their value and become fearless, if you like, because obviously if they're living under some I don't know what was the word you used, but if they're living under something not very nice, it's important that someone comes along and encourages them to say, hey, there's more for you. There's a destiny for you. There's a calling for you. And I love that you did that. If you look back now and the starting of that, obviously you're pioneered. What was the hardest point for that? Because obviously you have to break a lot of, stereotype. You've obviously broken a mold that was there to change this culture. What was the hardest part of that?
The hardest part was actually waiting to get that tick.
Yes.
Because I had to get that from the men. And it's a very long story how that happened. I won't take the time to go into that. But I do want to tell you about the women, because the women that I met as we travelled around, they didn't even sit in the dining room with us to have lunch. They were in the kitchen serving. And if they had a daughter, the daughter would be in the kitchen serving. But if they had a son, the son would be sitting where we were sitting having lunch. So the women, go back to that time, the women had no value. They had no value whatsoever. And so that was when the door opened for me to do the first conference, which was in 2007, I rented a venue that only had 70 beds. And we had a waiting list. Women wanted to come. So we couldn't accommodate them all. But that particular conference, I started to talk to them about the value that they have, that they are valued, that they are people in their own right. And so from that, and actually you said what was the hardest? The hardest was gathering a team of women around myself to help me organize it. And that was probably the most job. Yeah, that's the most frustrating, because you've got to understand these are women who've not had a voice. So I got these women around me, and I would ask them a question, and they would never answer me. They were totally afraid to give me an opinion.
Whoa.
But then as time went on, I mean, they've been set free now. They are amazing, and they're unstoppable.
I like that.
They're absolutely unstoppable.
Sorry. Go on.
We've grown from 70 to now we get between 500 and 600 women from all of former Yugoslavia.
That is incredible.
We had the most amazing thing happen at our 10th conference. This was something that Andrew and I had on our heart for a long time. We felt the men needed to come and apologise to the women. Right. And at the 10th conference, the 7 men came and asked me could they have half an hour of our evening program. And I talked to them privately first, so I knew what they were going to do. But I cannot begin to tell you what that did. When these 7 men stood in front of these 600 women and they apologised for how the women had been treated for generation after generation after generation. It was so powerful. You know, there was weeping. The response was, the response is something I'll never forget. And then after the response, they start celebrating and they start singing in their language. It's a new day. It's a new day.
Oh, wow. The rejoice comes. The freedom comes because, sometimes it just takes an apology and it's like, yes, that in itself speaks love. It speaks value. And it's like, yes, it's simply an apology and it just brings healing. So that's amazing, Greta. That's amazing. So what you've done is then you've shared all these experiences of the growth of these women and the transformation of these women in your book. Is that right?
Yes, the book is 10 years of the journey. It's 1 decade. Wow. It's 1 decade. And can I just read to you what I wrote right at the beginning of the book, because that really sums it up.
Yeah, sure.
I put here, Daughters of the King, A Whisper from Heaven, is a book about what God can accomplish through an ordinary person without any qualifications, only a willingness to obey the leading of God. It is the true story of how a whisper can become a movement that gave women their dignity back in a society where they have been oppressed for many generations. Many times throughout this book, you'll read about how God made the impossible possible. A whisper from heaven started as a seed, and that seed over the period of 1 decade produced more fruit than I could have ever imagined. So we started with this one program, with this one conference once a year. But as well as that now, the women have started 7 pregnancy crisis centres.
Right.
They have started, they're holding women's breakfasts, and they get speakers in all over former Yugoslavia now. They also organise their own one-day conferences. So now we have a conference in Croatia, in Serbia, in Macedonia, in Bulgaria, in Myanmar, in Slovenia, and they're all doing it, and they're all doing it themselves now.
You've activated these women to
Yeah.
oh wow, that's incredible. That is incredible, Greta. And it just starts with a vision, right? You just had this vision and this sense of need in a community, in the community. And I love that you became the solution to a need in our community, and specifically women. And wow. So with your book then, what do you think was, obviously you wrote the book and you've got lots of data by the sounds of it. You've got lots of, case studies and stories. What's the biggest fear that you had in writing your book?
Well, I don't know that I actually had a fear in writing the book, because it's all in me. But
yeah,
I felt very vulnerable. I felt very vulnerable, and I had to overcome that. I need to tell you why I wrote the book. I never intended to write the book, but I got an email from one of the women in Croatia, and she said to me, "Greta, you need to write this story, because the generations that are coming up, the younger generations, they will not know how this movement started. They'll think it's always been like that." Yeah. And so I thought, okay, for that reason I can write the book. So the book was never written for an English audience, if you like.
Right, yeah.
I wrote it. And that in itself was a miracle. In 3 months, I wrote the 10 years. I wrote the decade. And I just sent it off. Yeah, I just sent it off to Croatia. They translated it into their language, and they printed it, and so we launched it over there. But then when I came back home, people were asking for the English version.
Right.
So that's when Daughters of Hope, that I work with here now, they decided to print it in English, and that was when the fear set in. Because I felt really vulnerable, because I knew the women over there who were going to read it. They had lived the journey.
Yes.
But there's so many miracles in this book, Dawn, that I was thinking, are they going to believe me? Are they all these voices come in? Are they going to believe me?
Yeah.
You're not a writer. You can't write. You can't do this. So I had to overcome all these voices and just say, no, I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
Just do it. Just do it.
And that in itself is the answer to overcome fear. It is present in your life. There is a voice that comes at us and says, oh, who do you think you are? You can't write a book, or you can't, be a speaker, or you can't be a CEO, or you can't be a leader, or you can't even come out of the kitchen and sit at the dinner table. Like, that voice is very real inside of our heads. But I think you've nailed it. The key is the Nike saying, the famous saying, just do it. Do it afraid. Do it afraid.
They pinched that slogan from me. I used that slogan long before Nike had it.
You've got branding rights. It's your slogan. Actually, I think that was an inspired logo, branding statement. Anyway, I think someone had an inspiration from God and they used that. So it's a powerful statement.
Can I just encourage the listeners out there, that if they want to be inspired, because I see there are so many people that have great ideas, that have great inspiration. We all want to make a difference. We all want to do something. And I want to tell the listeners out there that if I can do it, anybody can do it. I'm the child of migrants. We migrated to Australia in 1956. I was born in Denmark, and because when we migrated here, we came with absolutely nothing. So I never went past, I got no education, basically. I only went to
Wow.
as far as primary school. So I had a huge chip on my shoulder because I wasn't educated like other people.
Yeah.
But, you know, I've overcome that through God. I used to be afraid of my own shadow.
Wow.
I really used to
That's
be afraid of
incredible.
my own shadow. But
Yeah.
I heard somebody say one day, God's not interested in your ability. He's interested in your availability.
Yes.
That changed my life, and I began to step out. And if you know, if the listener out there, if you've got ideas on wanting to start something, just go for it. Just
Yep.
go for it. You read my book, and you'll see that if I can do it, anybody can do it.
Yeah.
Don't
I
let
love
your
that.
ideas stay an idea. Make your idea a reality.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. And sometimes you have to just do it alone. You
Yes.
know, you can't wait until one of your friends says, yeah, I'll do it with you, or what, you got a team. The team doesn't appear. There is no team at the beginning, is there, Greta? It's
No,
just you
no,
and
that's right.
an idea, and it's like, okay, and it's fear. Fear and unbelief are your two mates that are, well, they're not mates. They're screaming at you, but you kind of just got to go straight through and go, no,
Yeah.
It's like the calling that's inside of you. You knew. And I listen to your story, I hear passion and devotion just oozes out of you for the cause, for those women. They needed someone to stand up for them. And look at the difference that you've made because you stood up and you became the voice for the voiceless. And now, look, they're all voices now popping up all over Europe. And it's just, you are such an inspiration. I would love it if you could share some wisdom with us then. There's three fearless wisdom tips would be great, Greta. What's
Okay,
number one?
Well, I've actually got a blog, and on my blog, I actually say that I've got 3 quotes on my blog, and they're the quotes that I live by.
Right.
And the first one is that I can because God enables me.
Yeah.
That's the very first thing. I commit everything that I do to God, who helps me do what I cannot do. I do what I can do. He does what I cannot do. And so that's my rock. That's my anchor. He's my inspiration. He's my courage.
Mm-hmm.
And can I just mention here that fear is spelled Fear, and it's just false evidence appearing real.
Yes.
That's all it is.
Yep.
Because 99% of what we worry about never ever comes to pass.
No, it's just an illusion.
Yes. That's right. So that's my first tip. And the second one is exactly what Nike have stolen from me. It's just do it. I do a lot of talking to myself because I believe there's a lot of power in what we speak out and in what we say. And so when I don't want to do something, I start talking to myself. You can do this. Just do it. Don't wait. Don't procrastinate. Just do it.
Yeah, I love it. You are your best coach.
Yes, there are so many people, so many women that I've spoken to that have the most amazing ideas, but it never gets any further than here.
Mm-hmm.
Because they don't make a plan, they don't write it down, they don't take that first step.
That's right. And that's it.
Anyone who's ever done anything great has had to take the first step.
Yes.
So that would be my wisdom, no matter what age you are, just do it.
Yes.
You can't succeed without failing first.
That's right.
You have to be.
No, I was just going to say, and sometimes we say, oh, I'm not healthy enough, I'm not fit enough, I'm not young enough, I'm not old enough. I know it's all of the lies that come at us through, fear just pours out lies, and it's like, no, you have to silence that voice and just proceed forward anyway, regardless. And
absolutely. And that leads me straight into you've just opened the door for my
Did I steal you thunder?
No, you didn't. You led into it. Because the third thing that I have on my blog page is age is mind over matter. And if you don't mind, it doesn't matter. And I'll speak to the listeners out there, regardless of whether you're a teenager or whether you're in your 70s or your 80s, it's never too late to make a difference. It's never too late to let your passion come out. It's never too late to, don't go to the grave with all your dreams still inside of you. We want our dreams to be reality. And
that's right.
you know, I mean, I'm in my 70s. I've no desire to retire. I've no desire to give in. So as long as God gives me breath, I'll keep going. And you know, I speak to so many women that are my age, and they just don't. They've lost all their passion. They've lost all their enthusiasm, and they don't need to.
No,
And it doesn't matter whether you're young, whether you're middle aged. It doesn't matter what season of life you're in. There is somewhere you can make a difference. There's somewhere you can let those gifts and talents that you have within you, let them come out, let them be used, let them bring change, let them inspire.
Yes, indeed. Yeah. Wise words, Greta. Absolutely. Very, very wise words. That was, you know, the one thing that stood out for me then that really impacted me was do not take your ideas, your innovation, you know, all of that to the grave with you. Like simple, just don't share it, give it out, bless someone else with it, you know, make a difference, leave a legacy. You know, someone said once, someone said to me, okay, so at your funeral, what are they going to say about you? And I kind of laughed it off, but I really pondered on that later. I thought, what did I say? Yeah. Like, what did I do? Who did I help? What difference did I make? And that was before I started, you know, the Fearless Women movement, where I'm helping people overcome fear. It was, and I thought, and it was one of my motivators to get out there and coach and help people, was because it was like, who am I helping? Myself? Yeah. That's boring. I know it's boring when you're completely self-indulgent, because there's only so much of you to, you know, think about. It's like, no, let me think about others and serve others. And it makes a massive difference in your world, is to serve someone else. Get your mind off yourself and serve someone else. It's liberating. Yeah.
And you overcome your fear. You overcome your fear when you share your story with others. Women, if we stand together as a body of women, we're much stronger together. And when we share our stories, we see that we listen to the same lies.
We certainly do. And I've often found that when we share, and as vulnerable, and like you talked about being vulnerable, when we share our stuff, our like dirty laundry, if you like, it actually gives someone else permission to go, actually, it makes me feel so. When I hear other people's dramas and chaos, I go, oh, thank God. I'm not the only one. It makes me feel better, but not for them, but it gives me permission to be normal. I'm not crazy. I'm just normal. I'm just going through life, and you know, stuff happens, drama happens, and I just need to just keep pressing forward. It doesn't define me. My dramas or my, you know, things that I've walked through don't define me. I define me. God defines me. So
that's right. That's right.
That's amazing. That's amazing. So us English, Australian people would like to get hold of your book, Greta. How do we get hold of your book if someone
you can contact me either on email or messenger, or I can give you my phone number. Okay. Do you want me to do that now, or?
What I think would be great is if you could just drop a link into, if you've got a link to you've got a Facebook page or something, or a link to buy it online. If you drop that into this video, then I'm sure people would love to have a look at that. And also, if you're a listener and you're listening to this on podcast, then come back to the Facebook Live on the Dawn Osborne page. So that is amazing. Anything else you would like to share before you leave, Greta? You're such a pleasure. I don't actually want this conversation to end, but
well, Dawn, you know, there's a lot that I could say, but I just encourage everybody, live your life to the fullest and plug into God. That's where the strength is.
Yeah.
I explained to somebody one day who wanted to know, what does it mean to have God's power? And I said, well, try vacuuming your floor by just plugging it in, but don't actually turn it on. That's really hard. But the minute you turn it on, it's really easy. So I plug into God, I put the on switch on, and life gets a lot easier.
Yeah, that is so true. That is so true. I mean, a lot of our, listeners and viewers might not know what we're talking about when we make reference to God, but I'm with Greta. The moment that I turned my vacuum on is the moment my life changed. It just does. It just does. Yeah. If you have a faith, it absolutely gives you purpose. It gives you, a sense of that you were born for something great. So I know if any of you guys are listening and you're wondering what we're talking about, drop me a message. Honestly, you need to tap in, and you need to just turn your vacuums on. It's wonderful. It's wonderful. So,
and to know that they all have value. Every single person listening out there has value.
Yeah. Oh, awesome. Absolutely. You are valued, and you are loved, and you are worthy, and you have purpose, and there's great things that can happen in your world. So, oh wow, Greta, you are amazing. You're such an inspiration. Truly you are. I just love listening to your story. I'm so thankful. So, all right, but thank you for joining us. So guys, no worries. Thanks guys for joining us on this session of Find Fearless Women. And thank you. Join us next week when we'll have another guest talking about becoming a fearless woman. Thank you very much. If you loved it, liked it, share it, comment, let us know, send me a message, give us some feedback, because we want to put as many inspirational women in front of you so you can hear their stories and get inspired. So you have a blessed day, and we'll catch you next time. Bye.
Bye.